Good morning and welcome to another videocast from Hendy Consulting, the specialist management consulting firm for the $125 billion FPD display industry. And today I'm updating some work I did 2 or 3 years ago on the display strategies of Apple and Samsung as being key innovators in the display market in general. And so then this is trying to basically look at the look back of the interests and what the companies have been interested in, and then update it with current material on their forward-looking plans, which are really quite surprising, quite expansionary, and quite exciting also for the future of the industry. So that's what we're planning to do. So let's talk a little bit at a high level and just get our names and companies right. So Apple, I think everybody knows. As a display buyer, Apple is one of the bigger ones. They don't have any of their own in-house capacity, really, other than their own R&D work so far on putting together micro-LED. And they do have a fab that they ended up picking up in Taiwan. But on the whole, they then buy from displays from merchant suppliers like LGD, in the past JDI and Sharp, and of course Samsung SDC is probably one of their biggest lead suppliers, particularly for iPhone. Then within Samsung, it's worth differentiating between the parent company, Samsung Electronics, that I'll always refer to as SEC, that is a very heavy TV business, also has the mobile business there, and that is the parent company. And actually, for them now, for television, they're actually buying an awful lot of LCD panels out of BOE from China, given their own display company, SDC, has exited LCD already. So then it is, let's make it very clear, there is a separate company called SDC, so Samsung Display Corp. They're the ones that sell to Apple Flex OLED displays, and they are also a pretty major company in their own right. But there are distinct tensions and differences between SEC and SDC. I can always remember a friend of mine in Korea saying, business with brothers worse than others, and I'm sure that's characterizes some of the relationship difficulties between the two very strong Samsung businesses. I think in the past SEC was worried that it was losing market share in television and frustrated with SDC's length of technology development in terms of achieving QD-OLED. And even today you see that Samsung Electronics as a parent company is doing its work on micro-LED, whereas Samsung SDC has the QD-OLED technology in-house. So there are already some tensions across the two businesses. So in the past, we talked about the major innovations that each of the two firms has brought to get to the table in displays. Let me see if I can move myself. And I called Apple the priest in that it's fundamentally and religiously interested in the user experience of the display and how it comes across through the GUI. But you can actually talk about quite a few innovations that Apple pretty much has pushed across the whole supply chain. Going back to then my outlook from before, I highlighted both mini LED and micro LED as being important things that Apple was interested in, and certainly they've been pushing forward in the last few years interest in those. What I didn't foresee was the absolutely huge now rumoured push into OLED that surpasses all of that, and it's probably in line with Apple's prior decisions, but I think the degree of it is what surprised me. If we talked about Samsung, now we have to remember, of course, that Samsung is two different companies, and so their agendas are actually slightly different, but I actually referred to them then as the pragmatist, in that the Samsung group as a whole is fundamentally interested with innovation that it can actually constrain by technologies and equipment that it specifies. So it's looking for a source of competitive advantage through manufacturing and the technologies that it controls, which is interesting. That's in comparison with Apple, that actually doesn't directly control any of the technology. It just seeks to make it happen. So there's a sort of conceptual difference in the way that the two operate. But for Samsung Group, there was an interest in quantum dots as a technology and in micro-LED as a technology, but also then this sort of fascination with value add in displays and new functional form factors such as the Fold and foldables in general. So then in the past, there were very clearly some distinct beneficiaries of the largesse and the decisions behind these two very big companies. And it was clear to me that some things both firms were absolutely both interested in. So for over the last period of time, both Mini LED and Micro LED have actually been on the roadmaps of both companies. And I guess it's not that surprising then that those technologies have moved forward quite a bit, being championed by both Apple and Samsung. So their interests are different. Apple's primary interest in Micro LED now is for the Ultra Watch, rumoured to be coming out at the end of 24/beginning of 25, and Samsung's real interest in Micro LED for signage and television. So the market execution is different, but they both have interest in the technology. So then this one really hit me by surprise, which was a slide released by Omdia, who are usually pretty well informed and pretty cerebral in thinking about these things, where they're talking about a potential for the forward-looking roadmap of Apple to really become very OLED-centric in a range of different variants, from QD-OLED to white OLED and the hybrid OLED. And the hybrid OLED here is TFE on top of a glass OLED at the bottom, put down by fine metal mask. So just so that those are all clear. But this is a major move for Apple and makes it more of a single technology platform in terms of the way they think about their technologies. In the past, I would have argued that the cell phone decisions, which were largely oriented around a move to OLED, were completely uncoupled from the PC-centric and iPad-centric decisions, which seem to live more in the realms of high-performance LCDs, enabled by mini LEDs, enabled by narrowband phosphors, enabled by wide colour gamut solutions, but we're actually pulling on established old technology but also delivering a premium position without having to go to OLED. So then this comes by surprise to me, just by the degree to which it looks like a move towards OLED lock, stock and barrel. So then this is a really expensive bet. If you start thinking about the capital implications of all of this, this is going to be a very big number, and the biggest beneficiary at the moment may well be SDC. But this is a fairly expensive expansionary idea. Moving on then, we can talk about, well, what about for SDC? So SDC is led by his JS chair, and he gave an amazing talk end of last summer on the future for SDC, where he really talked about three major growth platforms for SDC going forward in his aims to make it a $50 billion company. One was Gen 8 IT OLED products, and that plan is moving forward, although the gen size and the specific equipment vendor seems to move around a little bit. Similarly, OLED on automotive. He also then is making a very different, separate bet on micro displays and waveguides for headset related stuff. So that's where the Samsung business SDC is going. Now, if you start saying you go up at a higher level, is there still some noise around what Samsung is doing corporately? And I think the answer is yes. So SDC itself is pursuing QD OLED for television, for example, and I happen to have one and love it. It's an amazing display. But then at the same time, you've got the parent still pursuing micro LED as a display technology, but then also now rumours that there's a potential Samsung Electronics LG display deal in OLED for white OLED. So then this is where it gets noisier and messier. It looks like an intra-Korea potential collaboration. I'm sure the winner out of it is going to be Samsung Electronics, but it's not clear to me then how that's going to shake out, because there are some complicated decisions involved in this one. So who are the winners and losers overall out of the Apple and Samsung decisions that are going forward, both of which are quite expansionary, and to a degree you've also got quite a lot of OLED centricity, although micro LED is also there. So the Apple decisions are about a move towards mid to large gen OLED using fine metal mask, and one can argue that all of the OLED emitter related companies, but especially UDC, will gain out of this. Clearly there's been some discussion over the last month on who are the equipment suppliers actually going to be for some of these factories, and there was a discussion that maybe Sunic would be approved as a potential Gen 8 fine metal mask OLED provider to LGD. Toki had previously been in the frame for SDC, and Olvac has been mentioned even prior to that. But the Apple decisions on the whole are going to benefit the Koreans, so will benefit STC and LGD, probably with STC getting the slightly larger share. Who loses out of the Apple decisions? Well, clearly it's all of the current high-end LCD related supply chains. If you move across to Samsung now, then there's some of the picture is the same. So this forward thrust into OLED creates the same winners, but then you've also got some interest into micro LED and some interest in micro displays and waveguides that comes from STC that will create some winners there. And again, the losers will probably be the LCD supply chain in automotive and IT sector that's going to feel more pressure, and where the premium market might be heading into a new technology. So then this was attempting to be my 2023 display update on Apple, the priest, and Samsung, the pragmatist, and their different sources of innovation. Essentially, Apple surprised me, if it's true, by the degree of the OLED bet. Not that the OLED bet is being made, but by the size of it. You could say from a geopolitical point of view that it's quite a sensible thing to do, but it does move all of its bet towards Korea. The Samsung decisions are a little bit more complex, given that there's two, in some cases, competing businesses that are both part of the same umbrella. But it is also a massive expansionary thrust, plus they move into microdisplays overall. And I have to say, this informal deal that seems to be happening also with Samsung Electronics will probably end up benefiting Samsung Electronics. I mean, LGD may end up with some additional load as a benefit, but I bet SEC will probably get the better end of that. Anyway, that's my summary for Apple and Samsung as of 2023. I look forward to your thoughts and feedback.